Hi, this is Jason Kresge.
And this is Mark DeGregory from the band Orpheus Nine.
And you're listening to Sonic Perspectives.
Hey everyone, this is Scott Medina for Sonic Perspectives, and we are talking tonight with Orpheus Nine, who is one of the bands who will be playing at the upcoming progressive rock festival called ProgStock. ProgStock is taking place in Rahway, New Jersey on the first weekend of October, the 5th through the 7th. It's a 3-day festival with over a dozen bands playing, and we're really glad to talk today with Orpheus Nine. On the line, we've got Jason and Mark from the band. You guys there?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, hi Scott.
Hey, thanks for taking some time to talk with us a little bit about the band and then also your performance at ProgStock. We'd love to give people a sense of you because most of our listeners who are hearing it, who maybe are not from the East Coast area, might be new to the name Orpheus Nine. And you just released your debut album last year, but it looks like you've been around for a while before that. So could you give our listeners a sense of who's in the band and how long you all have been playing together?
Sure. First off, thanks for having us here. This lineup has actually been together for 6 years. I'm Jason. I play keyboards and sing lead vocals. Mark is here with us, of course, and plays drums and also sings backing vocals. We've got Matt Yulstad on guitar and Tony Renda on bass and backing vocals. We've all been playing together since April of 2012. And, things were kind of in fits and starts for a while, but, we really got serious in the last couple of years. And as you said, our album came out in September of 2017. We were happy to play, what I think was a pretty successful release party at NJ Prog House in September. We're really excited about ProgStock coming up. We get to kick off the festival, actually, the first band of the weekend, and just looking forward to sharing that stage with so many great acts over the weekend.
So all four of you have been playing together for about 6 years together now?
Right.
And how active have those 6 years been for you? I mean, that's been a while till your first debut album comes out, but it's a really polished release. So I can tell you've probably been working on it for some time.
Oh, thank you. Well, Mark, would you say we've been active all those 6 years?
Say it again.
Would you say we've really been active all those 6 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're kind of we're low impact as far as we've all got. We all have day jobs, so that keeps us busy. So we keep it moving. We've been pretty steady, with the preparations for the album, and then as Jay indicated, we finally kind of hunkered down and said let's do this, and kind of at a self-imposed deadline, which certainly met with some unexpected obstacles, but we managed to get around those. I think Jay, you had a couple of you actually hurt your playing hand, right?
It was good times.
Mm-hmm.
We had been writing songs for a while, and they were coming together slowly. And as Mark said, we do have full-time day jobs, and so I think for a while we didn't really have the clearest plan of action, and didn't necessarily put in enough hours outside of those day jobs. So it did kind of go slowly for a while. And, to tell you the truth, when 2016 came, we lost a staggering number of musicians that year, as you know, and it just, including my greatest keyboard inspiration, Keith Emerson. It was both sad and scary. And I think, for me personally, it kind of hit me that, wow, we're just, we're sort of going through the motions here, but time is really passing us by. And, I didn't want us to let more time go by and kind of miss out on the chance to really getting our music out there. So that is when we kind of hunkered down. We set a deadline, and then we did that thing that, if you ever ask us what kind of advice we would give to up and coming bands, I would say, please don't do this. We set that deadline, and then we got all excited about it, and then 9 months in advance we advertised it to the world and said, hey, this is the day, and we're playing our release show on that day. And,
Whoa.
You're pretty much begging the universe to laugh at you, which is exactly what it did. And a couple months into it, I had a fall and badly sprained my dominant piano wrist. So that lost me, almost a couple solid months of playing right in the middle of recording. So that was good times there.
Yeah.
It came down to the wire. It really did.
Yeah.
But,
Did you guys actually make that deadline?
Surprisingly, yeah, we did. I'm happy to say it worked out, and it was. I know I certainly feel like I worked harder in 2017 than I ever had in my life before, and I really got to hand it to everyone in the band and to Eric Rachel, who was engineering the album. Just such a wonderful collaborative effort, and we did manage to squeak it out and actually meet the deadline. The one thing that we lost out on was kind of the promotional window that we had built in. Here we had this ideal vision of, we'd finish up a couple months early, we'd have it in our hands, and then we could just work to kind of get the word out and build this buzz. And it was more like, okay, the release is coming up, we got to get this in our hands now. And okay, we did it. Here we go. So it was a little different than how we planned it, but it worked out, and we're really happy with the result of it.
That's really.
And I just have to say, you forgot a shout out to and thank you to Mrs. Kresge for her patience and understanding through 2017. So
while I spent all those nights in the corner.
Yeah, there must be countless bands out there who are, have their big CD release party and concert, and they're, waiting at the post office for the delivery of those CDs, like right before they go on stage. It's just, so it's very impressive that you made it, and I'm sure there were tons of sacrifices along the way to do that, based on what you're saying. And you mentioned Keith Emerson there. Keyboards are a real essential component for many progressive rock bands, but Orpheus Nine, I would say, truly seems like it's a keyboard-based band, even though the other instruments are very present in the mix and wonderfully performed. You've really got that sense of the keyboard being at the fore, and I wonder, does that happen with most of the songwriting originates on the keyboard?
In a way, yes, and I could say, for a little backstory, for better or worse, initially I had this grand idea of this big solo project that I was going to do, and some of these songs originated there. Mm-hmm. It was a very misguided notion, and I'm glad I got over that and realized that I needed to be with other musicians. So yeah, a lot of these did start as pretty keyboard centric ideas. But one of the things that I'm thrilled about is just the chemistry that we all have together. As I said, we've all been playing together the last 6 years or so, and even when a lot of the song ideas might originate with me, I might get a demo over to everyone, and then it's really not until everyone in the band kind of adds his magic touch to it that the songs really come alive. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I'm happy about is, there was a risk, I think, in setting out to find other people to be in the band, that it could very easily and unfortunately have turned into just, me looking for backing musicians. And I think that would have been a terrible approach. And I don't think I would have felt nearly as good about the album as I think we all do now. It really did become a band, and it really did become all of us kind of pouring our souls into this. And it's funny, you're saying about the kind of the keyboard centric aspect of it, but somebody I definitely have to give a special shout out to is Matt, the guitarist. He has one of the most musical and thoughtful ears, and in addition to the guitar parts themselves, There's just all these kind of little touches that when he listens to the song, he hears and kind of suggests, and it just comes together very organically. And so it's the chemistry has worked really well for us, and I'm just beyond thrilled with that.
And I would imagine that's very exciting for you, since initially that would have been a solo project for you, and now to hear these songs fleshed out in a much more of a band context must be really satisfying.
Yeah, definitely. And it's thinking of the live experience of being up there on stage. I mean, there's we have a lot of fun when we get up there and just expend all this energy on stage. And I can't imagine just being up there by myself trying to not just trying to pull these off, but it wouldn't even be remotely the same experience as just sharing that energy with everybody on the stage, and us all being involved and kind of putting all those aspects of ourselves into it.
Right. Mark, any comments on the songwriting process?
No, just I think one of the reasons we take 6 years to get the album out is that kind of speaks to the chemistry, in that we do have a lot of fun when we're together. It's not the expression of all work and no play. That's not us. We really have a great time and don't take things too seriously when we're together. And I think it leads to a very productive, stimulating, and ego-free environment. It's a real good dynamic we're working within, and so it really is. It's never laborious when we're sort of working through something. It's always fun and rewarding, and that's how I feel working within the band.
Yeah.
And look forward to continuing on, and already looking forward to get cracking on the next one. So
yeah. Yeah, that's great.
I agree. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's great. I'm really happy for you guys that it's a fun working environment, even when you got a crazy deadline over you.
Yeah, that was probably speaking for myself, and maybe the rest of the guys. If there was ever a period where it was sort of like, wow, here's feeling a little bit of the pressure, it was then. But it's still I think the excitement sort of outweighed that pressure. Just to get this thing wrapped up and out there. It was very exciting. So, but that was a crazy few months, coming down to the wire. But at the same time, I mean, I've never been so excited to about a musical project as I was with that release upcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and it's cool because I feel like we genuinely do enjoy each other's company. We'll get together and hang out sometimes, just not even practicing or anything, and just like, hey, let's go to a concert together, or just let's just grab dinner and hang out and laugh and be total goofballs for hours, which is great. And I think that makes the hard work of playing more difficult material a lot more fun. And I'd like to think that some of the fun found its way onto the album. There's sections like even the tabloids in the middle of Fetish, or at the end of Swimming in Our 4 O'Clock Tea, which is part of the title track. I think if you were at one of our practices, you'd catch an equal mix of this focused intensity and just silly laughter. And I feel like that's an awesome environment to be creative in.
We're already working on the expanded DVD pack for the next album, which will be all of those outtakes on video.
Oh boy!
Well, the theme here is
food for thought.
Yeah, the theme here is the circus. The debut album is called Transcendental Circus, and many of these tracks are featuring lyrics and themes, whimsical themes and fairy tales. Could you tell us a little bit about the concept behind the album, both for the title track and then the other songs on there as well?
Sure. It's kind of funny. There's a lot of different ideas that aren't necessarily all related, so it's hard for me to actually call it a concept album. Mm-hmm. But we did definitely set out to kind of tie everything together musically at the end of it. As far as the title, it's oddly enough, I I think I actually woke up one morning with the phrase Transcendental Circus in my head. And, I don't know what kind of crazy dream I must have just gotten out of, but, the more I thought about it, the more I really liked it and wanted to kind of think, see what I could do with that. And so on the one hand, I know a lot has been done with circus themes and carnival themes, and I kind of resisted the idea of following a cliche with that. But with the other half of it, I'm actually a big fan of transcendentalist authors like Thoreau and Emerson and Fuller, and so I kind of started to think about how that creative, intuitive kind of individuality connected with, let's say, the chaos of the circus. And what's funny is as I was looking up, I remember there's this genre of literature called carnivalesque, which happens to deal with kind of subversion of power structures, and it's usually done through this kind of chaos and humor. So I was kind of thinking of that in tandem with it, and just kind of thought more in abstract terms that one of the ideas on the album is just this notion of the ambitious dreamer being courageous enough to overcome or transcend, let's say, the madness of society. And I think on the other hand, the circus itself can be seen as kind of an extension of, let's say, this dreamer's wild imagination. So I started thinking about is that actually a story that we want to tell in words? And I think honestly it would have fallen flat if we tried to do that through an explicit story. It was more I think the music that came to the fore with that. So really what we tried to do was it was kind of an abstract painting, mostly through music. So that's how the title track came to be, and it's a 6-part, mostly instrumental suite that's over 21 minutes long. The parts kind of stand on their own, but I think they work even better together. Mm-hmm. And so there's a progression kind of through through this theme. I mean, if you wanted to kind of think of it as a story, and again, a pretty abstract one at that, but part 1 is Barcarolle of Bedlam, and I think that's just kind of setting up the I'd say the curiosity and the chaos of it. And it is a pretty technical piece and a bit maybe overwhelming, but then that segues into Hallowed Playground, which is for me a very emotional piece. I think that's it's one of my favorites in that sense, and something we really tried to do on a lot of the album is balance the technical side of things with the emotional, because there's a lot of technical music that can feel kind of cold and clinical, and for us this was coming from a very real place, and we wanted it to really connect with people, and Hallowed Playground is one of those songs or song parts where I feel like we really did that.
Yeah, I would agree I'd agree with you on that. For myself, Hallowed Playground is probably my favorite piece on the entire album, and
thank you.
And I always gravitate toward those more emotional pieces, as you say, and it also almost feels like a guilty pleasure because it's just purely prog kind of a piece there to just enjoy on an instrumental level. But I just wanted to let you know I think you hit the target on that one.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I think as far as the theme, that's kind of just like celebrating that kind of the wonder and maybe purity of like that individual dreamer, and then of course the scary clowns come in at the end and screw it all up, and then it just it gets weird. So then you've got an intergalactic clown festival, which is kind of this it's like this nightmare in society and like jazz metal fusion. So
now that piece was interesting though, because it starts off, and for listeners who haven't heard this piece yet, you have the kids in the background playing in a playground. It's kind of classic thing, and then their laughter turns to screams of terror as the clown laughs come in, the evil clown laughs, And then you have, a nice little slice of metal there for a moment. But you didn't really stay on a metal kind of, hit you over the head with a clown kabosh kind of vibe. So
Mhm.
did you not want to go too evil in the clown world there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, yeah, I guess I'd like not to go too evil. That's a good plan. Yeah, I think it was kind of that mix of there's that ominous intro coming in, but then it kind of takes a direction that you wouldn't expect, and I think that kind of fits with the overall kind of abstract painting in a way. Um, we didn't want to go kind of too far down one specific path, but at the same time, we still wanted it all to tie together. And so that's one of the parts that if you kind of listen different times, you'll hear pieces of other components of the song as well.
Hmm.
And there is more like kind of a kind of jazz fusion sort of mixed in there as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it sort of goes from like Chick Corea to like wannabe Black Sabbath in the middle. I don't know. It's yeah,
Yeah.
a bit unpredictable.
Yeah.
But again, I think then, even for part four, which is the only one that actually has some lyrics in it, again, that's kind of pulling back from that overwhelming chaos again, and kind of letting you sort of pause and reflect, and try to bring out some of that sweetness, and also kind of focus back on the individual, and kind of the I don't know, not to sound all cliche here, but like the dreamer's aspirations again, and kind of move it forward from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It seemed like I read somewhere in one of the press materials for the album suggesting that the title track really is the centerpiece for you guys of this album. Um, and then it's also interesting to see that, as you've said, this is largely an instrumental 21-minute epic there, whereas all the other songs on the album, which are quite lengthy, are pretty much all vocal pieces. And also, you're no slouch in the vocal department. That's usually like the Achilles heel of a lot of progressive rock bands. Is the vocals are like, well, they're not the strongest element. But with you guys, you have a very, very strong lead vocals, and so I found it curious that your 21-minute epic that's the title track of this actually is largely devoid of these great lead vocals. So that an interesting approach, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, it's I think in a lot of ways, there's so many different approaches to songwriting, and we don't even take the same approach on every song, but uh, a lot of what's important to us and important to me is that the things that do make it onto the final song should serve the song well, and I'm just not sure that a whole lot of words would have actually served that particular song well.
Yes.
Uh, I think they're a perfect fit where they do come in. I mean, there's the wordless vocal at the end of. I mean, I'm sorry, at the beginning of Hallowed Playground. Which doesn't have lyrics. It's more of a mood setter than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But then in Swimming in Our 4 o'clock Tea, which is the fourth part, oddly enough, the lyrics are actually written in haiku. It just sort of started happening that way, but it kind of fit I think the abstract nature of it well. And I think the vocals were there to do what they needed to do. We loved doing the harmonies, and I'm happy with how that came out, and kind of presented, I think, this nice mix of beauty and humor. And then they did what they had to do, and then they left, and then the music kind of took over again. And I think they could have overstayed their welcome if we just set out to say, no, this has to be a grand epic, and therefore we have to tell this story. And I just think it may have come across as overkill. So.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I notice in other places on the other songs on the album, there aren't a whole lot of backup vocals on the album, either from Jason multi-tracking or the other two band members who sing as well. And I was just wondering, is that a conscious decision on your part, or something you just hadn't worked out vocal arrangements for many voices at once?
Maybe a little of both, right, Mark?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, I think it depends. Really dependent on the song. A lot of the songs earlier on were just more of a solo lead vocal, and then for songs like Fetish and Hand of Make Believe, we kind of added the small parts where the harmonies did come in. We kind of added them later. I think going forward, you will see a little more of that. I think now that we've kind of figured out what works well for us vocally singing together, I think we'll be more comfortable doing a bit more of that going forward. So, some of it I think might have stayed with solo lead vocal, just I hate to say out of habit, but that's that's kind of the way they were established, and they just ended up staying that way.
Right.
But we're certainly open to experimenting some more. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I was terrified.
See, that's where we really need those that outtake DVD, because then we'll see the parts of practice where Mark all of a sudden busts out with the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner in full booming Bruce Dickinson.
Nice.
And he's being extremely kind, wrecking my throat in the process, and wrecking their ears. But it's fun. It's part of the fun.
Treating us all to some awesome theatrics in the process.
Fantastic.
I got to do something.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, if nothing else, that's what actually made me realize, because Mark hit the fact that he could actually sing from, I think, all of us, and then all of a sudden this happened to practice, and I was like, dude, wait a second, you got a voice here. We need to do something with this.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where that's where the light bulb went off, and we had this little eureka moment.
Yeah. Well, the drums are really active on this album. Just fantastic playing from Mark. And so, having said that about the vocals, I'm curious, Mark, how is it for you in a live setting, drumming and singing at the same time?
Definitely challenging, because it's something I haven't done through most of my years playing. Really haven't been in a vocal role. In fact, I think I actually kind of chickened out on one of the backups during our release party, if I'm not mistaken. I said, you know what, I'm just not going to do that particular. I think it was in Hand to Make Believe. I think I just for whatever reason I felt like I was running through it and thought, I don't want to botch this. But so it is a challenge. It's not so much a coordination thing as it is just that I'm still getting comfortable with the notion of singing, and I think I need to put the time in practicing vocals at the same degree that I should be practicing drums, and work on it. And Jason was very helpful in my preparations for the my vocal debut, if you will, by helping me out with little clips that I could practice to, and we charted out my parts. I basically wrote out the notes so I could sit down, and I literally was breaking the ice with it, was sitting there with a piano and just sort of trying to find my place and get comfortable with it. So I'm looking forward to
finding your place in this world.
Yeah, in the vocal world for sure. So look forward to maybe some more on future tracks. But
nice.
Certainly certainly it's a nice, it is nice to have that additional expression. I do get let off a lot of steam playing the drums, but it is always nice to bring the vocal into it as well. So I hope I can just become more proficient at that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of playing and singing at the same time, for Jason, do you find it difficult at all to be expressive as the lead singer while you're tied down to your keyboard station that's in front of you especially in a live performance?
There's certain moments when I do, just parts that I realized are more challenging than others, and so that does kind of take a little practice to really nail down. But I mean, ever since I was a kid, I was playing piano and singing, so it was something that I, for a long time just did and got comfortable with pretty naturally. There's as I said, different styles of music, of course, that changes, and there are some moments that feel a little less intuitive. I don't always write the music and lyrics together, or the the music and the vocal melodies together. So sometimes when they are separate, they both feel natural on their own, and then when I put them together, it's like, oh, wait a minute, this could be fun. Sometimes that forces a little bit of tweaking of one or the other, but always with an eye toward what's ultimately going to serve the song best. If it's a matter of oh, I'd really like to hear this this keyboard part behind it, but this lyric or this melody is really what the song is about, then bye challenging keyboard part, because it's it shouldn't be there just for the sake of being there. Ultimately we want the song to be meaningful and connect with people. So I think that does come into play sometimes too. And we've been pretty good about not being rigid about how the song has to sound. As I said, we'll start out with kind of these demos, and we'll have a certain idea in our heads, and then as it goes, it evolves a little bit, and kind of find something that works better and just feels more natural and kind of fits the group a little better, and that's what we'll go with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On this debut album, the production really is outstanding on it, and I'm curious if there's any insights how you were able to achieve such high standards for your first album. Well,
thank you, and a lot of that credit really goes to outside the four of us. We teamed up with Eric, Rachel, and actually have Mark to thank for that. Mark, you could speak a little more to this, but Mark had worked on previous projects at Trax East Studios with Eric as the recording engineer, and was happy with what Eric did with the drum sound, and when we were kind of looking for what initially was just going to be doing vocals and drums, with an engineer in a studio, Mark kind of recommended Eric, and we just decided to team up with him for that. I initially had another misguided notion. I seem to have a lot of those, that that my mixing skills would be able to propel us to the finish line, and that we would just do these couple of things in the studio, and then we could kind of self-produce the rest of it. And really, once I saw Eric's engineering skills in action, I knew that it just made more sense to hand over the reins to him, and I'm so glad that we did. It definitely exploded the budget, but right from, I think, the beginning, Eric kind of, he liked what we were doing, so that obviously helped. But he really, Mark, you mentioned kind of setting up an ego-free environment. That's certainly what he did in the studio as well. He kind of keyed into what was important to us, and then just really put all of his kind of technical wizardry into action to capture that, and to bring out the ideas that we had, with the goal of serving those ideas and not taking over in any way, which was great. It was really a pleasure to work with, and we're thrilled with what he did on the mixing side. And then Alan Douches from West Side Music was the mastering engineer, And that was another case of, after all this kind of work that we put in, there's a lot of music out there that is just sadly over compressed, and you kind of just end up with this fatiguing wall of noise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this kind of album, with so many different styles sort of weaving in and out, it was really an album that needed to breathe dynamically. And Alan, I think, just did a beautiful job of that. Giving it the power that it needed, but also kind of letting it breathe and feel warm and natural that way. So the two of them are we're really indebted to them for kind of helping us turn the vision into reality. And we played all the music, we came up with the arrangements, and all the structure of it was ours, but really executing that and kind of putting the polish on it. Definitely have to give Eric and Alan credit for for making that sound so much better than I think we ever could have on our own.
Right.
Just
Absolutely.
audio wise.
Yeah.
Well, so now the album's been out for a little over half a year. I see you've gotten lots of glowing reviews from around, great comments, scoring high marks. A lot of people hadn't heard of the band before, and seems like you've made a pretty good splash. So how are you feeling about it all now? Has it achieved what you had hoped to for this debut release, and where is that leaving you for where you might want to go from here?
I'm so happy with the positive feedback that we've gotten. People have been really, really warm in the reception of the album, which again, I'm just delighted by. It's certainly not a bestseller by any stretch. We didn't expect it to be. I think we're at a different place than say we might have been in our maybe our 20s, where we might have been setting out to make it big, and this is going to be the thing that transforms our lives in every respect. And in a way it has, because it's something that we wanted to do for a long time. I've been kind of dreaming of it for years, I'll say, but I think it's happened in a very healthy way for us. We still have our day jobs, but we did this because we love it, and I'm glad that it was a labor of love and not something that kind of had pressure to be done a certain way. So we could approach it exactly the way that we wanted to and make exactly the album we wanted to make. And I'd like to think maybe that's part of what people are responding to, is that it's it wasn't something that we compromised on. So I'm loving the response that we've gotten. I'm excited that we do have another NJ Prog House show coming up, and of course, ProgStock Festival in October, as you said. We, super excited about that. I'm really thrilled that hopefully, Mark and I were both there last year, and it wasn't the hugest audience, but the people who were there were so passionate about the music, and it was just such an amazing community of people, and so I know that many of those people are very enthusiastic about coming back and bringing more friends with them, and it's I think it's just going to be a dynamite crowd, and I'm so excited to be able to share this music with them, not just on the album, but performing it live for everyone. And I think hopefully we'll grow our fan base more that way, and also kind of slowly but surely work on the follow-up, because we've got some pretty good ideas kicking around for that. But,
oh, great!
I won't
Great.
spoil that here.
Yeah, yeah. And Mark, how's it been for you? And do you feel that this has been a great vehicle for your drumming abilities? I know you're, really into bands like Rush, and so was this a vehicle that you feel good about what you were able to contribute on from the percussion standpoint?
It really it's really perfect for me. Honestly, it's I was in another progressive rock band that pretty much were winding things down. Just we all had things going on in our lives, and sort of hit a standstill, and we're having trouble nailing down the last couple. Steady personnel on a couple of the instruments, and there was just enough of an undercurrent of all that we said, hey, it's time to let's take a break. And I think I went into Craigslist or something, and to take an ad down we had up for a vocalist or something, that an old ad was still up through my account, and I saw a band look progressive rock band look for a drummer. So my ears kind of perked up at that, because progressive rock is a broad stroke. That can mean a lot of different things, and Orpheus Nine's markedly different than the last band I was part of. And I played what I guess was the fall of House of Keys demo was up, right, Jay?
Right.
And a couple, that had some incredible drumming from the original drummer Dan Knighted, and it blew my mind, like what he was playing, and I'm thinking, this is just, I just was so attracted to the writing style and what he had done with the drums, that I said, yeah, I have to audition for this band. And it's certainly, I haven't been the least bit disappointed. I mean, there's a lot of thank you. There's a lot of room there to let the influences out, and experiment. And I just, it really is a great fit for me, in that, as you indicated, you've identified, Rush, we've, played in the after hours together, on the cruise. And so there's been sort of that repertoire of Rush and ELP, and, those are bands that I've loved through my life. And, to finally let some of those influences into original music has been really rewarding and refreshing. Because up until that point, frankly, I mean, I had been coming into situations where seems to be a theme with me. I was coming into bands as the a replacement. So a lot of times things were already written and somewhat in stone. So this is a little different in that and some of the things that Dan had done prior. I mean, I've tried not to change a thing, because they were perfect. So, it's still, a little bit of the original flavor, and then I'll try to, inject a little of, my touch here or there on songs, and then moving forward, was able to really, to try to bring some of my style into the tracks. So,
yes,
it really is a great, rewarding fit for me.
Yeah.
And something else that's kind of funny there, you mentioned that you found us on Craigslist when you were kind of going on there to take down an ad for your previous band. What's funny about the timing there is the day that we got the email from Mark expressing interest was literally the day that I had gone on there to possibly take down our ad looking for a drummer.
Wow.
And the backstory there was that Dan and I were actually the original two who kind of paired up, and then he helped. Really was instrumental in helping to kind of start to shape the sound and kind of evolve it from this solo project into a band. And so, I really am grateful to him for getting us started with that. And he was part of the four of us when we got together, and then decided to leave the band. And it was very amicable, and in fact, we all still get along really well. And he's actually our photographer now, which is great. So,
fantastic.
but he left, and as Mark said, obviously he was very talented and had some pretty big drumming shoes to fill. We did audition some other people, and who were perfectly fine, but not really the right fit for the band. And it was, ended up being kind of a frustrating few months, and it had gotten to the point where, we weren't really sure we were going to find someone, it's the whole drama of, forget it, let's throw in the towel, let's take down the ad, let's just take some time and think about where we want to go. And here it is that day that I'm going on to remove the ad, and this email from Mark falls from the sky, and he's got audio and video clips in there, and here I'm listening and watching this, and right off the bat thinking, oh my God, this is the guy, and sure enough, we talked on the phone a bit, clicked, and then we got together once with the four of us practicing, and it was it was just, we knew it was the right fit, and just went from there, and it's been, as I said before, just great chemistry and everything. So thanks for that email, Mark.
Yeah, Mark, you gave.
Thanks for having me. But just to speak to we got right to it with the fun, because if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like the second time we got together. Obviously, I had a lot of music to still catch up on, and so we had a very limited repertoire to work with, right? So then we just sort of say, all right, moving pictures, let's go. And we just kind of like wung it. We totally wung it.
Nice.
Or winged it. I don't know which is appropriate, and just tried to just go through moving pictures, warts and all, and it was just really fun. You mentioned Rush, Scott, which is close to my heart. So, and that's what's also really cool is that, I don't know that, I mean, we have a really diverse taste in music collectively, and I don't know that any of us dislike anything any of us are fans of, and so in so many areas we're all really big fans of the same bands, and so you never know what you'll hear at practice when someone starts with a little riff or something, and next thing you know, we're off and running on having a little fun, little break from our original, and crank out some cover out of who knows, left field.
Yeah, well, I see you've got some covers in your set list from past, some fun, good choice cover material. So that's good to see where you guys meet in that kind of area too. And one thing I haven't asked you yet is where the inspiration behind the name Orpheus Nine comes from.
Yes. So Orpheus, of course, is a figure from Greek mythology. Kind of the singer musician, played the lyre, and sort of kind of charmed the underworld in an effort to win back his love. So I've always been kind of fascinated by that story, and by kind of the many outgrowths of that story. So that felt like a natural inclusion. Number 9, honestly, came along because I guess the Greek mythology again. There's 9 muses. There were 9 planets before Pluto was demoted. There's being the dorky keyboardist that I am, there's 9 organ drawbars. So it just always been one of my favorite numbers. It just something about it that just flowed to me. I wish I had something a little more profound to add to that part of it, but just kind of flowed and came together, especially when the solo project was expanding. And as I said, when Dan joined up with me, he was a fan of it as well, so we went with it and took it from there.
Yeah, nice. Well, Orpheus has plenty of mystical connotations there that the imagination can draw on from right there. So that totally feeds into it. And so bringing it back to ProgStock, Orpheus 9 is going to be the opening band for the whole weekend of the ProgStock Festival, opening up on Friday afternoon. Want to let the audience know a little bit about what they can expect from the live show?
Sure. I mean, as you said, we're kicking it off, so no pressure. Our set is the opening hour, so obviously we want to do something special to kind of really open the show with some fanfare if we can. You'll certainly hear a lot of the album. I won't say exactly which ones, but we're kind of mapping it out. We may also have I don't know, maybe something a little new in there as well. So definitely like to give people something they might not have heard before. Definitely, or you'll almost definitely hear that.
Another one of those deadlines again. You're sorry.
We won't speak of such things.
Yeah, will this be the biggest theater hall that you've played?
It'll definitely be the biggest size crowd that we've played as a band. Yeah. So we're really looking forward to that. As I said, Mark and I were both there last year, and it was just it's a great venue, great group of people in the audience there. Mm-hmm. Tom and Marty and Rob and everybody who put the show together just did an incredible job of thinking of all these little details and really treating the artists very well too, and making everyone feel kind of a special part of things. It was cool because last year I actually helped out as a keyboard tech through most of the weekend. So it was great to meet a lot of the other bands that were performing and spend some time backstage and just get to know everyone. And it was great experience combining that with still getting to be out in the crowd watching a lot of the show. It's just it's a pretty special experience, and I think going to be a really special event for everyone. So we're just super excited to be there and to kick it off. So we're certainly not something we take lightly, and we really hope to give people a very special set.
Yeah, it's a top notch festival too. I couldn't believe that it could go so smoothly as an audience member. Watching it that it was the first year. They seemed like there was a lot of thought and had a lot of details worked out, and it just on so many levels, from the performances to just even the overall setup for the after show meet and greets and sort of having a home base, and it was really, really put together wonderfully. And so I we'll continue to say congratulations to them on a really stellar first year, and looking forward to being part of the next one. So
I'm really excited for you guys. It's going to be you're going to have an incredible opening set, I'm sure, and it's going to set the whole weekend in a perfect vibe. So very excited for you to take the stage there, and then once that's done, you looking at you've already been referring to new music. You think album number 2 will be your next goal, or will you try and do more live gigs, or wait and see?
I think a bit of both. We're definitely we're excited to think forward and try to work on some new music. As I said, there are definitely some ideas coming together, and I think it's I dare say I think it might be pretty big, but we obviously are loving the response we've gotten to the first one, and definitely want to do more live performance. Partly to get out there and meet more music lovers, and get these songs into more people's ears, and hopefully get them excited for the next one. We didn't exactly move quickly on the first one, as I think which I guess is kind of like saying that grass is green. I think we fairly obvious. So I know it's going to take some time for the second one to hopefully kind of come together organically in that same way. But now because we've been in a place where we've been able to kind of create that healthy internal pressure and move ourselves forward. Hopefully we'll do a more steady job of that the second time around. But I'm excited for it. I love these guys. I can't say that enough. It's just so exciting to, I think I think it's really hard for a band to make great music without great chemistry, no matter how talented the people are. So I'm just, I'm very lucky to have found bandmates who are great players, but also great people. So I know we're going to have a lot of fun.
Stop
working on the next. Wait till you see what I say when we get off the air.
Well, we're going to leave we're going to let our listeners hear the last track on the album. So if they haven't gotten a taste of Orpheus 9 yet, it seems like the track "The Fall of the House of Keys" would be a great introduction to the band. Anything you want to say about this track before we play it?
Yeah, this Mark mentioned before. This was actually the one that he heard the demo of that kind of piqued his interest in the band. So which is kind of a cool, I think kind of a cool story and a cool connection to it. It's definitely one that I think we all connect with in different ways. It's this idea of lyrically, it's this idea of kind of how our dreams are sometimes forced to change their shape once the eyes of the world are watching. So in a way, it's an interesting thought for the album to leave off on. But it's one of the longest tunes on the album. It's certainly, I think, pretty musically rich. And for a while, it existed without the overture. There's an orchestral overture in there, and that was something that was always in my head, but took a while to actually execute. And finally polishing that off took pulling all-nighters for the first time in years. So that was quite the experience. So sometimes listening to that overture, I still feel a little sleepy thinking of how it came together. But it again, I think, kind of grew very organically, and it's I think for all of us, it's one of our favorites on the album. It's definitely something that we all have a pretty strong connection to.
Well, Jason and Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and share a little bit about the process of the band and the album. And for the listeners, again, Orpheus 9 will be opening up the ProgStock Festival in New Jersey this coming October. So be sure to check out the info about that festival, because there's some stellar artists who are going to be playing on there: Mystery and IQ and Michael Sadler and UK will be having their music played there too. So just fantastic. So thank you guys again so much for talking with us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. It's been great.
Yeah, this is Scott Medina for Sonic Perspectives, and again, we will leave you with this track, "The Fall of the House of Keys."
child is born with visions of creation. He buries seeds of dreams beneath his bed. Alone at night, he hears the orchestration. A house of keys constructed in his head. Limitations of the world confound him. He craves the boundless music in his mind. Piano scales and melodies surround him. He grows obsessed and leaves all else behind. A palace of transcendence, a promised land of sonic wizardry. His kingdom forged declares its independence, and all the earth awaits his symphony. faithful to his senses. Much older now, his life has dealt its hand. He knows his childhood dreams were weak pretenses. But does this mean he has to understand